Hello everyone, I'm Jeff. Welcome to the Commando cast.
And I'm Andrew, and today I'm here with Jeff, the winner of the Portland Prime, and we're doing a complete recap. All right, guys, so like I said, we're here with Jeff. He won the Portland Prime this last weekend. Mike is not with us today. Unfortunately, he is sick. I know he wanted to join Jeff. We've all met before, and we've all played each other before for wins and losses and all that, right? But so before we go actually into talking specifically about ours, I wanted to do a quick recap of the Primes across the country. So there were 8 this last weekend. What ended up taking down Arizona was that Plo, Chirpa, Hoth Trooper, Ewoks deck. I'll be honest, I still don't completely wrap my head around how exactly that deck works. I need to probably get some reps in with it and understand that because it sounds like it's doing some pretty brutal things. Colorado got taken down by Raylo. 5-die chopper droids took down Kansas. Raylo again took New York. 5-die chopper droids for Ohio. And then Papa Palpatine, Jabba Lightsaber Mastery, Jeff's deck, took down Oregon. Jango Palpatine Lightsaber Mastery, a somewhat similar deck, took down Pennsylvania. And then we had the Forlom Grievous Messenger deck take down Texas. So shout out to those boys down there. Also coming up this next weekend, we have 6 primes. So there's going to be one in Chandler, Arizona. So shout out to the guys down there. Lexington, Kentucky. There's one in Warren, Michigan. Minneapolis, Minnesota. There's one in Boonton, New Jersey, and one in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. There are no international ones that I could see. I will add any later, or I'll add the notes if I see any pop up, but I don't believe the first international one is until the weekend after, right? So it would be October 19th. So yeah, so we're here with Jeff. So first question I have for you is, tell us about yourself. Obviously, you've been on several games in the past. You've come down from Olympia multiple times, and thank you for making the drive today. So Jeff got in his car after work and trucked it down about 2 hours through traffic to get here. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I always thought if I'd be on this cast, it'd be winning some crazy contest. But you actually invited me.
Well, you did technically win a crazy contest.
So I made it. Dice Commando headquarters. Thanks for having me.
So, how long have you been playing Destiny? Obviously, we know now you're from Olympia, right? Hail from Washington. You took our trophy back to another state, but that's fine.
Yeah. I've been playing Destiny since, I guess, a little over a year ago. A friend of mine, Aaron, shout out to you. Met him at Beer Works in Lacey, Washington, and he brought the 2-player set, and I said, hey, get that off the table. That's a collectible card game. I'm well into my 40s. I'm not getting sucked into anything like that. Yeah. And he, after one pint, he talked me into it, and we had so much fun. It was such a fun game. We both got hooked right away on that. And then he and I pretty much just played at our kitchen tables for, the rest of 2018 there. Mm-hmm. And then we got hooked up with some of the other players in Olympia, Washington. And we both did our first competitive tournament in February of this year at Olympic Cards and Comics in Lacey.
Informally Gabby's, right?
Yep, Gabby's.
Yeah.
Which great place.
I've heard good things about it. So.
Yeah, so if anyone
their Prime's coming up on December 9th, is that correct?
Yep,
okay.
Yep, they're hosting a Prime, so that's
and really shout out to Kenton. I believe Kenton is actually TOing that event. I believe he did that last year as well, and everybody had really good feedback, both for the store and for him as well. So shout out to him. He did make his way down to Portland as well, so it was great seeing you. All right, so the question I have for you really leading in is, why Palpatine? It's a bold choice. I think the community on the whole thinks it's a bold choice. So
yeah,
why is it not a bold choice? Or maybe it is. I don't know.
Well, I could probably talk about this for quite a while.
Well, that's why we're here.
Yeah. I was excited about that. Well, first of all, he's just a really fun character. It's a thematic character, and on the surface, the ability he brings to this game is something broken. You can add your health, up to the number of cards in your deck if they're all abilities. And it just seemed so fun when he got released earlier this year. And probably another reason is, up until that point, I've just gotten some hand-me-down cards, some great people in the community. Shout out to Bran in Tacoma for really helping us out in the South Sound. And but my wonderful wife, when the new set Convergence came out, she went out the day of and bought me a box, and one of the cards that she pulled out of it was Palpatine.
Nice.
So it was just a really fun
so you've
deck.
Been on him.
Yep,
the whole time.
If I look at all my decks that I've built and that I tinker around with, this is the versions of him of it have been in my box for all this time. And so as different sets have come out, and I've tried to make it more and more competitive as time goes on. But again, I didn't really have a ton of confidence in him because I know he has some glaring weaknesses at times. But my two primary play partners, Aaron and Sam out of Olympia, they even though they had decks that they're bringing that consistently perform well against Palpatine, it was really their insistence that this was my best deck that I have that I've played against them. And I listened, and I'm grateful because it worked out.
Yeah, well, it definitely did. I mean, so not only did Jeff win the event, Jeff actually did not lose a single game throughout the entire event. So he went 3-0, or sorry, not 3-0. He went 12-0 across the day, right? So undefeated in Swiss, first place coming out of Swiss, and then didn't even lose a game in any of his matches. And we went top 8, top 4, championship. So I think the next question I have is how many reps did it take, or how many iterations, I guess, did it take for you to land on Jabba as the partner? Or were you set? So, and for those of you who have seen Jeff on Commando games before, he runs Mace Satine and stuff like that, right? He's very big on, I don't know, kind of the blue-yellow load 'em up decks, right? But I'm curious what made you end up landing on Jabba, and then I'll go into why I think that's an amazing choice next. But what made you land on Jabba?
And as I was saying earlier, I've tried Palpatine with just about every pairing you could do. I started out with Watto when Convergence started, and that is a strong deck and still is today. And then I've switched to different red characters to bring in a different event suite. But one of the things I always struggled with in all of my Palpatine games is I play so many cards for upgrades. I like the strategy of rope-a-doping. Just absorb, damage while you build up, and then you come back strong for a finishing blow, which we might get to.
Or maybe a fatal blow.
Yeah, I think that, yeah, exactly. And so card draw was always a problem. I'm out of cards by the time it comes to rolling in Palpatine, and if I need a card to re-roll or do any mitigation, anything like that, I don't have it. So that was my frustration with Watto or Watt or Conan Mahdi as the traditional pairings. So then I look for ways to get more cards in hand, and then the only way to really do that consistently, I'm backing up a bit. Obviously, the deck has things like Forbidden Lore, bartering to get some card draw in match. But if I'm able to drop that fourth die, and I know that's a bit controversial sometimes to go to a 3-die start, but if I'm able to drop that and go get some plots in there, I started with the Separatist Conspiracy plot. That lets you exhaust the plot.
For leaders.
Yeah, for leaders, and Jabba is a leader, and so is Palpatine. So that's 2 cards that I can get.
Sure,
hopefully. That's
interesting.
Yep. And that I was running that for a while until my play partners really picked up on the power of me able to get 2 extra cards in hand to start building up Palpatine towards unlimited power. And so immediately they picked up on that, and they started either paying a resource or more frequently ditching a card, which is still painful for them. But the giving Palpatine 2 extra cards proved far more detrimental to their strategy. And so it really didn't help me along any further. And then I switched to the Lightsaber Mastery. And that lets me have pseudo in hand 2 cards, and they're game-breaking cards.
Right.
And so instead of having to run 2 Fatal Blows and 2 Pushing Slashes in my deck...
Well, you probably wouldn't run 2 Pushing Slashes, right?
Yeah, I mean...
You just don't have the space.
Exactly. I mean, I've tinkered with it, But what would happen is you'd inevitably get it in your opening hand or two where it's a dead card and it hurts your ramp and hurts the other elements towards your win condition.
Sure.
So just having 2 cards on demand under Lightsaber Mastery when needed to fire off at the opportune time really turned the corner for this deck to prove very consistent in playtesting. And as it turns out, really you only need one. If you can pull off one fatal blow and make it impactful, that's all you need in a typical game.
So I think that's a great lead-in, right? Because basically, so I watched a huge number, not only doing the commentary after, but also I was at the top tables and I was walking around doing the marshalling, right? And I watched you fatal blow a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
I don't think Palpatine won the tournament. I don't think Jabba won the tournament. I think fatal blow won the tournament. That's my personal take on it. I mean, obviously, fatal blow doesn't work on its own. I get that, right? But the out of pocket, and I should clarify, it's not that fatal blow the card won it. It's the out of pocket fatal blow when you won it is what won you the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can't argue with that.
Especially into all the wide decks we were seeing with 8 health characters, right?
Right, exactly. I mean, Palpatine's traditionally pretty well positioned anyway into a support deck that deals, at least a little bit of indirect damage that you can push off onto the secondary character. But yeah, having, again, I know I said it already, but having those 2 cards on hand whenever you need it is critical to that deck, and I think has proven to be worth that second die that a 12-point character pairing would offer. And
it clearly worked.
Yeah.
Right?
And another side note is just having the 1 die does make Forsaken, just insanely easy to set up.
Sure. Yeah, sure. All right, well, without further ado, so what I'm showing up right now is his deck list. So obviously I think we kind of described the team comp, right? Palp, Jabba, Saber Mastery with Fatal Blow and Pushing Slash, but why don't you walk through us and I'll kind of interrupt you as we go and ask questions about certain cards if that's all right.
And I guess looking at this again, what I should back up to is while I initially added Jabba as his pairing to be a second leader to really harmonize with the Separatist conspiracy plot, it ended up really working great for his Jabba's other ability, which is to pull yellow events or bounties. Obviously, I'm not running any bounties, but to pull it in my hand to get that, again, what I was looking for, an extra
desperate
card.
measures.
Yeah, desperate measures, well connected, and dangerous maneuvers, which we'll get to. So with Separatist Conspiracy, in theory, I was getting, ideally, 3 extra cards around if my opponent did not choose to discard a card. This gives me hopefully that 1 extra card each round, but it also, in my pseudo hand, Lightsaber Mastery keeps those safe and sound for me when I need them.
Fair enough. Yeah. All right, so Battlefield with Steed Palace.
Yeah,
that one's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, right? That's just a punt right there. Obviously I need to.
Well, it's not a punt. Jabba's a guaranteed money.
Exactly. Yep. If I get my Battlefield, but usually, unless someone's Battlefield is really, detrimental to me, my strategy all day was to, if I won the roll off and had a choice, I would take the shields.
I see. Yeah. Although, to be fair, I didn't do this analysis, and maybe I should. I wonder how many people were running Theed, because there was a lot of Theed around that.
Yep, there's a lot of Theed.
I should have actually done that.
I usually picked my opponent's Theed if I had the choice.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, so let's go through the upgrade suite. So just take us down the list.
Bartering, it's a 1-cost yellow ability with card draw that in all of my testing, is one of the MVP cards. However, in the tournament, especially the finals, it turns out the bartering card
giving
draw,
him some card draw.
Yeah, that obviously came back to bite me, and I saw it happening, and I would do that differently. I
will say that watching you through the tournament early, I was like, why in the heck is he letting his opponent draw on bartering? But half the time, you were feeding yourself another 1-drop upgrade.
Exactly, yes.
I mean, probably not half the time, right? That's not statistically, but a fair amount of time you were actually drawing into something you want. And with the way that you were advantageously taking your overwrites, it doesn't have to be a 1-cost upgrade. It could be a 2-cost.
Yep.
Or a 4-storm, right?
So still bartering, no matter what, the option to potentially have another card in your hand is absolutely clutch.
Sure.
I will be sad to see that upgrade rotate out.
Well, and I can't tell you how many times I saw you resolve it for 1 focus into a 4-storm special to get it back in, right? That was pretty big. So I mean, I think obviously it's a 1-cost ability. You're going to run it regardless, but I think that little guy did work. All right, so Force Jump.
Force Jump is another 1-cost ability, which is a key part of this deck's mitigation strategy. As is pretty evident, anyone looking at this, there's very little traditional event hard removal dice cards. So Force Jump, sometimes early it's a little bit tricky to pull off because you've got to get that die out there in the pool before your opponent rolls in. And really, this is a rope-a-dope kind of dirtling deck, so it's not always natural to get Force Jump in the pool to affect your opponent's die.
Sure.
But against a support deck, that does work, repeatable work,
right,
which is another card that this deck will miss once a rotation hits.
Yeah, fair enough. So Force Storm, man, you did some work with Force Storm this weekend.
Yeah, Force Storm, I know it. In the Destiny community has been a little bit, criticized a bit, I guess, after the nerf came, and admittedly, it did have that broken element to it. But my love affair for the Force Storm has never faded. It's just, what other die could you land on a 3 damage, resolve it, and feel a little bad about it? And then with Palpatine, get a chance to roll it out again. And by feel bad about it, you mean feel that you're not getting your full value? Yes. Yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, because obviously you want to get that special going. And my strategy is to try to, at least the first round I play Force Storm, find a way to resolve the special at least once to get it up to 2. Because once it gets to 2, it's lethal.
Yeah, and you and I were talking before. I personally, obviously you saw it more, but I think I only saw you get to 3 resources on Force Storm once throughout the entire day.
I think that's right.
Yeah, and maybe it happened another time, but I don't think you got it above 3, did you? I don't think I did get it above 3, but I'm happy with focusing it to a 1. Even just one extra ping turns that. Well, but it's a 1 that rolls in.
It rolls back in, and then if you can resolve it again on the 3 damage, you just did 4 direct damage. So it's one of my favorite cards in Destiny.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. This next one, so Formidable. I think that's an interesting choice.
It is an interesting choice. I would consider this the 30th card of this deck if I had to bump out a card for something else,
like a protective suit, maybe.
yeah. Going forward, that's if this deck caught a little fire, and if I was going to Worlds and taking it, I would consider that. But even this week, I played 6 of my 12 matches was against Satine Droids, and the deck held up. But I would have rather have had a second EMP, which we'll get to, than Formidable.
Yeah, fair enough.
But I do like the. It's a legendary. From an older set that hasn't seen much play at all. So there's a little bit of style points for sneaking in a Formidable in this deck.
Sure. Neiman Mastery? It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, we could talk for half an hour on this card. The only thing I'll say is I really like Ceresu, the Ceresu Mastery. I think at its core, its ability to just remove a die when you play it is a little bit more powerful on the front end. But in the end, with this deck, and as we'll continue to see, there isn't much for event mitigation. So most of the mitigation from this deck is harmonized in with the upgrades. And so Neiman Mastery gives us that ability with this deck.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's completely fair. So this next one I'm actually going to steal your thunder on. So Neiman Training, I actually play this as well in my Palp deck, and I get a lot of questions about why the heck are you playing Neiman Training? Because I actually play Sorasu. I actually personally think Sorasu's the better, well, actually I take that back. Prior to this weekend, I thought Sorasu was the better Palp move to play. But seeing but I'm not playing Force Storm as well. So I think you with the Force Storm, I think it worked out really well. And obviously I'm not questioning the winning deck, right? But Neiman Training, I think a lot of people don't like. I actually play Neiman Training in my Raylo deck because I've seen people playing. Let's do this. I've seen people playing Force Focus in Palp.
Yeah.
And isn't Neiman Training a better Force Focus?
It's half the cost.
Right.
So without a doubt, the beating heart of this deck, after so much practicing and development, are the 6 1-cost ability upgrades: Bartering, Force Jump, and Neiman Training. These, the times in my opening hand that I get 3, or if I'm super lucky, 4 of these, I am ecstatic.
So you're not pitching any on the mulligan. Any 1-drop you keep.
No. Yep. Any 1-drop, any one of the 6. Those are what I consider the primary cards to start ramping, because not only does it, get another die in the pool, and as mentioned earlier, it is technically a 3-die start, but it also is very, very soft mitigation in and of itself, in that it gives Palpatine an extra health right off the bat. And it already starts to set up the fatal blows and back to therapies that are crucial to this deck.
Yeah, that's a solid argument. Palp's lightsaber, pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, you get it's a 2-drop. It's usually free. I suppose I'll steal your thunder here. I'll go to the next one.
Sure.
Sith Teachings. One of my favorite.
It's awesome.
Yeah, I guess the reason why I'm rolling the lightsaber into the Sith Teaching explanation is that that's one of my favorite plays. Is I can play a Palpatine's lightsaber for free to start the round. You pay the 2 and you get the 2 back if you have more abilities. And then I hope my opponent rolls a blank on one of the rolls, and then I'll play Sith Teachings for truly free by overwriting the Palpatine's lightsaber to remove that blank and get 1 extra health to boot.
And turn that special into a 2.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I guess I typically use Palpatine's lightsaber as a ramp card. That could also, if I roll it out, do damage.
It's got 2s, yeah, for sure. But yeah, I saw you overwrite it a lot for your storms and stuff. But, yeah, fair enough. All right, so moving on to supports.
Yeah, I guess one other point with Sith Teachings is, because that is another irreplaceable card in this deck. I know it does cost 2. But
I don't think I've ever seen a PAL player not play Sith Teachings, right?
Yeah, and then just maybe myself and any other experienced PAL player out there will... The trap would be to play Sith Teachings without removing a die. If you don't remove a die, then you're overpaying for Sith Teachings, and you're eliminating one of the key mitigation strategies of this deck.
That's interesting.
So I think there's only one time in my 12 matches that I played Sith Teachings and didn't remove a die that's showing a blank.
I see.
And I really work hard to even try to set up that combo, where if I will, I'll Neiman Training my Force Jump to a special, and then resolve my Force Jump special to blank an opponent's die, and of course roll the Force Jump back in, and then with my next action, assuming my opponent hasn't re-rolled, play Sith Teachings and overwrite something to remove the blank that I literally just nilled myself with the Force Jump.
Gotcha. Yeah, fair enough. All right, so supports Forbidden Lore.
Forbidden Lore,
self-explanatory.
Obviously, yep, 0 cost. It gives a resource and a card draw, so it's beautiful.
And then a little Raylo hate here with Galactic Deception, right?
That's right. This is another kind of late add in my testing with my local Olympia crew. One of them, Aaron, runs a very good, very spicy Raylo deck, and I just was having trouble beating it. And this Galactic Deception just turns off all the tricks. So in the tournament, I guess we should probably talk about that. My first round matchup was against a Raylo, and which was my most feared matchup. So I kind of thought, oof, luck is not with me today. But then in my opening hand, I got a Galactic Deception, and then my next hand that I got to start for the round 2, I got my other Galactic Deception, and it was over before it started, because I won the roll off. I took the shields, my opponent's battlefield, and when I had my action, I played Galactic Deception, and that meant no Lothwolf bonds. I think it's bonds. No Lothwolf, no polarity, no Kylo's power action because he had no way to get his shield onto Kylo, and just on and on. It was
fair enough.
It was crucial for, but then again, I didn't play it a single time in the rest of my 11 matches. So there you go.
Well, it's a tech card.
Yeah, it's a tech card.
Fair enough. Yeah, a side note, we didn't see as many Reylos as I think we expected in Portland. So.
That was very surprising.
Yeah. All right, so events. Questionable choice, back to therapy.
Yeah, that's the blowout mitigation in this deck.
It is. It's a mitigation card, right?
I consider it blowout mitigation. I know it's not the traditional die removal mitigation, but oof. I think later in the top cut, my opponents will really scruffy looking nerf herder this card. So I had a little bit of trouble getting it off, but yeah, it's the best.
Awesome. And then tell me about Dangerous Maneuver.
Dangerous Maneuver. Well, this is a key piece of mitigation. I consider this my second best mitigation card after what is that? I'm sorry, I can't believe Forsaken, because it damage on Jabba just doesn't matter that much, and it's usually like a Forsaken removal card just removes a two die or less, a die showing a two or less, and this just does that without any kind of conditions. It's just I can move 2 damage that my opponent did right over to Jabba, which doesn't matter that much.
Sure.
And so when I'm doing the math on counting my mitigation, I definitely give full credit to Dangerous Maneuvers. Plus, Jabba can hopefully pull it when I need it for that 6th card in hand.
Fair enough. Desperate Measures, good. That's just a meta call, right?
Yep. That's Jabba needs to pull yellow events. It's 0 cost, removes an entire support, and I can dump all that damage on Jabba. So it's obviously the key piece to make this deck competitive against the big support decks, the Jabba Watt Sentinels and the Satine Droids.
Right. And then EMP, you had mentioned earlier you wanted to play a second if you could.
Yeah, thinking I only went to 1 and I did the Formidable, thinking I'd have a lot of Reylo matchups. I really didn't want 2 EMPs against Reylos. So I went to 1, but knowing how many droid decks that we had in Portland here over the weekend, that was there was a couple of times that I held on my 1 EMP in my hand, waiting for the opportune time.
Waiting for the Falcon.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I had some passes there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And then Forsaken, you've actually already spoke to, and Well Connected, it's just a ramp card, right?
Yep,
so
just a ramp card.
That rounds out the list. So thanks for sharing. Actually, you had already posted it on the DB, so it's public knowledge for a couple days now, Craig, because this will go up Friday. So
yeah, and pretty soon it's going to be old news, but right now it is up on the SWD, and there's pretty good discussion with questions and answers, and so I enjoy chatting about it, and it might be my only deck that ever garners any public interest. So I'm soaking it up. So I'd love to chat about it more.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about the tournament itself. So Swiss went pretty well, right? I mean, obviously it went well, but functionally playing it, how did Swiss go? Because you had the opportunity to play on stream a couple of times, right?
Yeah, I think it was round 3 against Marissa who came up from California to play, and she won. She took down the Redmond Washington Galactic Qualifier earlier this year. Just a few months ago, and so I was excited but a little nervous. I know she's a pro,
and I hadn't met her. I had a chance to kind of chat and kind of shoot the S with her while we were watching your guys' finals games, and she's pretty cool. So it was nice to meet her.
Yep.
Sorry, I derailed you.
Yeah, so first match was against Reylo, a guy, I wish I could remember his name, from Walla Walla. Great guy. Again, the luck went my way with the 2 Galactic Deceptions right away. If I don't get those in my opening hand, it's a different matchup for that deck versus this deck. But just luck started to roll with me for there. And then second round, I played the the famous Jabba Watt Sentinel support deck, and it was a good match. I think my opponent went for Jabba first, I think trying to shut off Desperate Measures for late game. And if he wouldn't have done that game could have gone differently. But yeah, it was, again, my intention was to have this deck stand up well to support decks, which is what I was primarily thinking I was going to get. Which and it was. And then
and that's a good Fatal Blow fodder deck for you, right?
Meaning that just...
No, they've got guys that are 9 and 8.
Oh, yeah, that's what you're saying.
I mean, I guess Jabba's a 10, but...
Yep. So, definitely use the Fatal Blow probably every game, I think. And
seems...
Yeah.
That's why you brought it to the table, right?
Yep.
Fair enough.
And
then 3 was on stream.
Yep, 3 was with Marissa on stream.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And then
the fourth round.
Oh, yeah. So rounds 4, Swiss rounds 4, 5, and 6 are actually on the Dice Commando channel. 3 will go up the day after we're shooting this. 4 will go up the day before this video posts, and then 6 will go up the day after this video posts. So people are more than welcome to check out those games. There are some pretty good games. But anyway, round 4.
Yeah, I hope people check that out because, round 4 is against the Satine Droids.
Round 4 was your Mandalorian Maul.
Okay, right. Thank you. Great memory. Yeah, so that was a deck that, on paper, Palpatine can struggle because it can dish out a lot of direct damage very quickly, and before Palpatine can get into his unlimited power mode, which I try to get to as fast as I can with all the one-cost upgrades. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that match again against James, a fantastic player from Dice of Failure up in Bellingham, Washington. Yeah,
that was a fun deck, or a fun game, I should say, to commentate, because obviously I know both you guys really well. I know you're both really good players, and my partiality to Maul.
Yeah.
Right. So, and Maul is actually really well positioned to take you down because that 3 becomes a 3 on both carriers, right? So
but it's just like we'll talk about the IG-88 match next, but the damage on Jabba, so the AOE damage doesn't really bother me in this matchup too much, because if you're doing damage on Jabba,
so you're not too worried about your Fear and Dead Mans and stuff?
I'm not in this deck. In fact, most of the game I'm trying to, at least with the dangerous maneuvers, move damage over from just use Jabba's to soak it up.
Interesting.
And those decks aren't running Desperate Measures, so the spot yell or remove a support aren't as vital.
Okay, I see what you're saying
out there, but obviously I've lost to your Maul aplenty. So that,
but not with this deck.
So I'm not unfamiliar with Maul. My friend Aaron from Olympia, he runs Maul too, and that Maul rolls nothing but 3 sabers. So I've lost. Maul has taken me down a lot. So, but I was comfortable with the matchup to a certain degree, and I don't think these decks right now are running things like Maul's lightsaber. And that's what I'm really worried about with Maul against Palpatine.
Oh, just doing like 7 damage.
Yeah, because if that hits the 4 side and Maul hits the 3 side, you can do the 7 damage direct. That fears me more than a pulse cannon can be scary, but it's a little casino-y.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fair enough. And then round 5 must have been your droids.
Yep, round 5 that was against the Satine droids. So that, Satine droids I think is going to be and has been one of the top meta decks at the top tables that a lot of the top teams are running. So for the folks out there that are doubting the 3-die start with this deck, hopefully we'll get a chance to see how this deck performs, even though it's only running the 2 traditional hard dice removal cards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and then your last game was versus Brian Register.
Yep.
From Portland, Oregon area.
Yeah, that was he's such a fun matchup, getting to know him and talk to him, and such a great guy. And it was a fun matchup. I'm in my 40s. I seen the original Star Wars when they came out. I love Empire Strikes Back. It's my favorite movie, like a lot of people, and just the cool bounty hunter IG-88. I'm a fan.
Nice.
It's just neat. So I love the IG-88 card, and it's great to see that character get some play in Star Wars Destiny here. And so it was a fun matchup, and that could have it obviously did go my way, but it is a matchup that is vulnerable. I'm not to Palpatine. I'm not worried, again, like I said, about the spread damage that IG-88 could do, because Jabba is expendable in this deck. But but Brian, he real strong player, but he did let it slip. He took it back. He was going to go play Admiral, but then he took it back, and so once I saw that he had intentions of an Admiral reset, that really helped me pivot strategies a bit to try to get around that.
Gotcha.
Because that could have been surprise damage to reset Phasma when I've claimed or something, and to just drilled Palpatine.
And you fataled Phasma off the table in that case, right?
I think I did. I'm looking forward to seeing that back on the recorded stream, but I'm pretty sure that's...
Because I'm sure you remember every single move you made all day at this point, right? So, fair enough. All right, so before we go into talking about the top cut matches, the reason I wanted to kind of harken back to the title of today's episode, which was Inevitability. And the reason I've titled it that was because that was the look I saw on Jeff's opponents' faces at about round 3 almost all day.
Okay.
It was just this feeling of, I'm going to keep pounding into him, but I don't think I can get there, right? And I think that's what we were calling it that day across the room, was we were saying before he goes all Papa Palpatine, right? Isn't that what we were saying? Something like that, right? But before he goes all tanky Palpatine, whatever, right? But before he gets going, you got to take him down, or that's it. But also what fed into that was the way that Jeff was playing all day. I don't know that I've ever seen someone play an entire tournament with the level of patience that Jeff had. He was resolving a 1 focus into a 4-star. Like, he'd roll a 3-gun on 4-star, and roll a 1 focus into a special to deal 1 damage, and roll it back in, and resolve a Palpatine 2 focus to flip to the Jabba 2 focus and the special, and hit for 1 damage, and roll it back in. And the amount of patience that you use all day, I think, is admirable to not get overly excited and just continue with your game plan and continue to execute. So I was very impressed by that, and I think that has a lot to do with kind of that inevitability statement of seeing it on your opponent's face of, okay, it's only 1. Okay, it's only 1. Oh, now it's a 2. And then next round, of course, now it's a 2, and now it's a 2, and now it's a 2, and now there's a 3, and then all of a sudden my character's dead, and now there's a 4 indirect. And it just started stacking up, and I think it started wearing on a lot of people, just knowing that they still have 15 damage left to be put into Palpatine, and they're looking at 6 dice on the table, 8 dice on the table, right? So,
yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, like I said, I just wanted to get that in. Let's. So unfortunately, for I think pretty much everybody, your top 8 match was against Brian again.
Yep.
Right. So. Yeah. Obviously, we know the answer. It went your way, right? But
yeah, I think both of us were, we were excited to, hang out with each other for, another, hour plus playing some Destiny. But both, I don't think either of us were excited about the rematch. Both of us probably felt that there was weaknesses for our own deck against the others, and but. This is my first, time making a top cut. So the rules change a little bit, where the surprises are gone, in that we get to see our opponent's deck list ahead of time. And this time I'm able to look at that deck list and see that he's not running. I don't think he was running any "You Are in Command" nows. So I really didn't have to worry about Admiral getting placed on IG-88, and so I could just really focus on Captain Phasma to start the game. And she's a little bit easier to eliminate off the table because she's less health.
Yeah, for your Fatal Blow.
Granted, he's running Riot Shield, which is a great call in that deck, of course. But the one I kind of forgot to tell Brian, but if he would have had, I think it's Tireless Pursuit or Dangerous Maneuver. I think it's Tireless Pursuit, where it's a 0-cost ambush event that lets you move 2 damage.
Oh, it's the bounty version of Relentless Pursuit, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's Tireless Pursuit.
I'll put it up on the screen, guys.
Yep, and that would have won him the game. And I think that's a strong deck. I'm looking forward to experimenting with that deck myself, but that will, because that damage on Jabba just moved right back over in a surprise fashion with ambush.
Yeah,
I'm not sure this deck could beat his if he's running that card, two of that card.
Yeah, no, I mean, and what I told you when we were getting lunch is I was surprised of all the games all day. I was surprised that he didn't take one game down.
Yeah.
Because that deck can just roll 8 to 10 damage. Right? So I was very surprised he wasn't able to squeak one in.
Yeah. Yeah, the design of my deck here is to, just like, I think I was telling you earlier, my son and I have been watching the fantastic Rocky movies, and my son's asking, why doesn't Rocky block? Like, well, he's blocking with his face. I feel like that's what this deck is doing. I block with my face until I'm ready to come back with a haymaker of my own and try to close it out in heroic fashion.
All right. So your top 4 match then was Satine Droid AR.
Yep.
Or was it Satine Droid FC?
That was AR.
AR. Okay.
Yep.
So it was AR for top 4, AR for championship.
It was. Okay. So yeah, I do think this deck has legs against. I think some people will say last weekend's Satine Droids. So we'll see what they do going forward.
Fair enough.
But tweaks can happen both ways, though. But yeah, those are probably my 2 most intense matches against Jacob from Cloud City Rollers. Those were really tight, and I think that game 2, obviously I appreciate more than the work that you do here, but I am a little sad that we're not going to get that game 2 on record.
Yeah, that's true. So I actually hadn't spoke to that. So I was doing recording of table 1 throughout the day. Obviously, the stream was going on as well. I know a lot of people are aware of that. But I lost round 2. I didn't actually lose it. I just never started the camera because I was too busy doing other stuff. And then what happened actually in Jeff's top 4 match, and thank you, Jacob, for being patient as well. I know you were understandably annoyed with the camera issues we were having. But what happened is my camera, I think, just overheated, and it just shut down mid-match. I asked the guys to pause for a minute while I swapped memory cards because I thought maybe that was the issue. It was not. It ended up shutting down 3 or 4 minutes later, and at that point I was like, I'm really messing. These guys are sitting here playing, they're stressed out. I'm not going to keep doing this, so I just took the camera off the table and we just went there. So because it wasn't worth ruining your guys' day for camera stuff.
Hey, I needed the break, so I like the timeout.
Yeah, so we took a 2-minute timeout. I added 2 minutes back to your clock, and then, but like I said, I didn't. If I was a player, I wouldn't have wanted to have that going on either. So I didn't want to mess with your guys' head. So I just pulled the plug on recording for the day, and I mean I think that was the right thing to do. So. But yes, you're right. We don't have that match, which is because they were good matches. Right?
Yeah, well, maybe it's like fishing. The fish that you caught gets bigger and bigger as time goes on as you reflect back on it.
Fair enough.
But yeah, in my mind, that game 2 was my best come from behind victory ever. It was looking bleak for this deck.
And actually, so that's a good remember because that was my interaction with Marissa. Whereas we were basically sitting there watching you, and you were taking a pounding.
Yeah.
And we were actually, because it was getting kind of close on time, because you have the 90 minutes per round at that point.
Yeah.
And you were down to about 30 minutes left, I think, and you're definitely not favored in a tiebreaker, right? Or at least an early tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Right? So I think everybody who was sitting there watching was like, dude, Jeff, just call it and move on. And then all of a sudden it's like 4-storm. That was actually the game I think you had 2 4-storms on the table, actually.
Yeah.
I think it was.
And I think I had one up. Yeah.
And again, that feeling of inevitability, at some point he was just like...
It did come down to the wire, though. It came down to.
Oh, it was a great game.
I had,
I think everybody clapped at the end of that game.
Yeah,
too.
that was a big sigh of relief.
Yeah.
It was. I had to discard his entire hand. I had the opportunity to do that before he could re-roll and kill my Palpatine, and then I was. But then he was able to focus to a shield, and I only had the ability to do 2 damage, and that's all I needed. But then he was going to clearly shield up with the next action. And I had that 1 EMP I had held on to for several rounds.
That's right.
And
You EMP'd a shield.
I EMP'd a 1 shield on a crate speeder. Horrible value. But, in context.
Hey, a W is a W.
So that was, but that is one thing I really love about this deck. Because I think in Destiny, most of the time the games can be determined by who ramps better or in the first round or two, or who has the better first round, and then it's just formalities after that.
Mm-hmm.
But this with Palpatine here and the way the mitigation strategy is, it can come from behind. It's for some really exciting matches, and that one took the cake.
Yeah,
that was the highlight of the
one.
tournament for me. Not to take away from anything else, but just it was such a tight game.
Oh, awesome. All right, so let's Lynn, move on to the next question. So Worlds is, I think it was well spoken of, or at least being assumed, that most of this weekend's meta was going to kind of be the last ditch effort for Worlds. We know there's another set of primes next weekend, but that's real close to people needing to fly out. So I think the all eyes were, well, that was actually the name of our last episode, was all eyes on this last weekend. So if you were going to make your bold world predictions, what do you think? Well, just in general, what do you think your bold world predictions are based on what you've seen?
Oof, that is such.
And
a
I don't mean winning the whole thing, but
Yeah.
like what are we going to predominantly see in the top cuts? What are we thinking?
Yeah, before I get there, let me just back up one smidge.
Sure.
That was a great thing about the event Mike put on from Smugglers Run Gaming, and I wish he was here. I wanted to thank him myself, but he promised, in his posting for this was, hey, let's we're going to shape the meta. This event is taking place right after the change to the rules, the erratas and balance of the force, and right before Worlds. So it's kind of a fresh. It's a fresh meta right now, and this is all eyes on this weekend, and I kind of hope we did that a little bit.
Yeah.
I really.
Well, I think there's between you and I think I'll have to go back and check who did it.
Yeah.
But there was that other Palp from Pennsylvania. So Django Palpatine from Pennsylvania, right? So between those two, I think people have to be paying attention to Palp.
Yeah, by the time...
Which is also bad for Palp.
Yeah, by the time this comes up, hopefully, I think Golden Dice might be showing a recorded game of the finals.
Great.
I'm excited to see it. Obviously,
I'm very curious to see
Palpatine
that
fan.
deck, too, because I'm curious how they divide the very, very valuable upgrade slots, right?
Yeah, I'd like to share a Turbo's Bourbon Porter with that
Nice.
guy to share some stories, but so hopefully if we're able to tweak the meta away from the support droid or Jabba decks that I think a lot of people think that will be fun. I don't really consider myself a Worlds player, and this event in a lot of ways was Worlds to me. So I'm really enjoying the time and the opportunity to talk about this. And so, but back to your question, what do I think would actually make it?
Let me make the question easier, right?
Okay,
so,
thanks.
I'll pull the question off the table then. I think Raylo's really well positioned for Worlds because they can mind extraction.
Yeah.
Right. So then what, we'll go back to your deck list real quick.
Yeah.
What change do you make to accommodate for that? I mean, I already hinted earlier, protective suit. That's the easiest add-in. I believe you were texting me either the night before or 2 days before. You were saying, hey, do we think we're going to see it a lot of Palpate? And I was like, honestly, probably not. And I think you pretty much went full in on banking on Palpate, right?
I did message you. I was I don't want to lean on that friendship too much, but and put any under pressure.
It's not like I knew what people were going to show up.
Yeah.
With,
right? Okay. But yeah, I'm sitting there with my Formidable, and I'm sitting there with one protective suit, and I was just hemming and hawing on it, and so I was the only Palpatine player there at this event, and there wasn't any Palpatine hate out there. So, but knowing what I know now, I think the big teams, especially after seeing how this deck did perform against the Teen Droids, which obviously I don't know what they're playing, but I have a hunch.
Teen Droids is strong.
I have a hunch that is going to be a popular deck, which is with the way a lot of the major teams like to play their Destiny with supports and strategy and sequencing. It's a complicated deck that this beat 6 of them. So that's I think it was pretty neat. And so I think we'll see some Palpatine hate. So I would swap out, if I'm going to World, I would swap out the Formidable with the protective suit. I've thought and tinkered around with breaking bonds here and there, but that's an event, and that can easily be probed or scrubbed.
And you can't Jabba fish it out.
You can't Jabba fish it out. And the thing about protective suit in this deck is, yes, it doesn't give you a die, and yes, it doesn't give you a health, but it does pump up your Bactas, and it does pump up your fatal blows.
That's fair.
So it still has value beyond preventing non-bounty downgrades.
And actually, it's not even a total dead card in a non-villain blue matchup, right? Because you can technically just use it as an overwrite. I mean, you're probably going to pitch it to reroll.
Yeah, you're right.
But you could always throw it down for the reason that you stated. That's an interesting.
Good point, yeah.
I mean, you get it, like, because you said you're always fishing for the 1-drops.
Yep.
So let's say you end up with it on your second mulligan, you end up with that and 2 1s. You can very easily play it.
That's a good point. And probably to evolve my strategy on this deck, if I stay on it, and I know I will, is the only card I ever really overwrite is Palpatine's lightsaber.
Sure.
I don't think I've ever, even though I know it's available there, I don't think I've ever used Neiman Training to discard Neiman Training and play Neiman Mastery. I want that extra health and.
Well, it's not that hard to get Neiman in with it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But yeah, so you were saying that you think we will see a lot of Raylo because they can play mind.
It's the easiest. I mean, like, a lot of Raylos will play a Beguile or something like that for a 2-drop. It shouldn't be that hard for them to tech in.
I don't know.
One slot.
But if I'm a Raylo player, I'm not too worried about this Palpatine matchup.
That's a fair argument.
I'm more worried about the big support decks, the Jabba and the Satine.
Well, and Jabba can run it.
Yep.
I think it's actually more impactful to Jabba's list to take that slot away than it is to a Raylo list.
If I was running Jabba supports, without a doubt, I'd sneak in.
Well, I'm not saying you don't. Yeah. I think it's more impactful to their list. I do want to say side comment. So I threw together a Jabba Sentinel Messenger deck for Telpar Group do testing going into the Prime, and I think that deck might have actually gotten better with TIE Fighters.
You think so?
Yeah.
Just because it things your deck and...
obviously being able to roll in an Entourage twice is strong. Like, I'm not discounting that at all, but the TIE Fighter Swarm hitting the table is gross. It's pretty good, and maybe it's not better, but it didn't lose much.
Respectfully disagree.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you just like the Entourage package?
Well, no. Well, okay. I disagree with the TIE Fighters. If I'm going to run that deck, I'm leaning all into the Super Laser Siege Cannon.
Okay.
To Watt that card hasn't gotten any respect, kind of like Force Storm a little bit.
But you most of the time you're delving it and you can't Watt it.
Yeah, I don't know. That deck, that's a fair... I mean, I don't know about most of the time, but if I can Watt it, I want to Watt it.
Gotcha.
And just to power action, throw some more resources on there, 2 resolutions of it. I might Watt my, Senate Chamber or Watt my, Arc Starfighter, something like that instead of the Super. I might delve some other things instead of that if I had a choice.
You're still playing Fist and Megas, right? So
yeah. And but the Super Laser Siege Cannon package, with just the. I know it can be desperate measure, but if it is, that's still 5 indirect. That's not too shabby, and maybe you can bait them out with some other stuff. But the TIE Fighter, I don't have any TIE Fighters, so maybe that's why I'm discounting it unfairly right now. But it's just other than thinning the deck, I see the value there, and
it's an extra card in your hand, right?
Yeah, but it's just not as.
Anyway, all right, you and I have tailed off, so let's bring it back home. So we kind of talked about Worlds a bit. I think that pretty much I want to make sure I checked off all my stuff. So we talked about you being on stream.
Yeah, it was thanks to all the folks that were able to make the stream work. It's turns a silly little dice and card game into a spectator event. Sure. And
before round 4, you were texting your wife, getting her the stream.
Yeah, she was. I probably don't deserve the great spouse and kids that I've got. But they're at home, cheering for me and watching.
And they actually sent you this little picture to cheer you on.
Yeah,
right?
look at that. Look at that. How great is that? Making little signs to cheer me on. So yeah, thanks for all the different people involved to get this stream to happen. It really helps build a community.
It's a lot of work on all parts. So I don't know. I think we're pretty much at our time limit. So is there anything else you'd like to plug before we get out of here?
I think that's it. Just thanks to Dice Commando, Smuggler Run once again for the opportunity. I'm just tickled to have this chance to talk about this day. So
great. Well, we'll have you back. I mean, you're no stranger to the Dice Commando channel, so we'll have you back.
Awesome.
So
thanks
for joining us. And if nothing else, go Commando.
Go Commando.